Low-quality fans of a high-quality playoff team, whomever that playoff team may be. Welcome back. Now it's time to talk about the Golden Knights versus the Minnesota Wild. A series, again, that has a heavy favorite, should have a heavy favorite, but has some interesting nuance to it a little bit. Before we get too far into it, the bracket challenge listed below. Win a free jersey. Do it. Do it. I think you can still join at this point by the time this video comes out, actually. I don't know how that works. Either way, check it out. The general rules or strategy for going over this preview. I focused mostly on the last 3 or so months leading up to the playoffs. Most of the data I'll use will be focused on that. I think it gives a better snapshot of where a team is in most cases. The advanced analytics I use are from Natural Stat Trick, unless otherwise stated. Home ice means next to nothing for me outside of extreme cases like the Canes. And then predictions at the end are me just throwing shit at the wall. I'm not using all the math and studying to actually make my prediction because I do poorly with it anyway. So I'm just having fun with those. Let's talk about this series explained by a diehard Predators fan. The lead up to the playoffs, the Knights went 3-0 against the Wild this year, and this series sure doesn't look like it'll be any different. But I've said in previous videos, the season series don't mean crap. It really doesn't mean much, especially when the injuries for one of these sides has just been nuts this year. We'll talk about Vegas first, though. Vegas would go through the season ranking top 10 in pretty much every facet of the game outside the penalty kill and goaltending. And even goaltending was close. Over the last 10 weeks of the season, it would be more of the season. 10th in goals for per game, 6th in goals allowed, 3rd in power play percentage, and 31st on the penalty kill. Their team save percentage during that time frame, led by Adin Hill, would sit at 11th. So really, the only thing you're looking at is the penalty kill, which a bad penalty kill can sink a season in the playoffs. But I'll say this in a few different videos. The playoffs are small sample sizes of special teams. Just need things to go your way for a little bit there. Just a little bit. At the end of the day, the Knights are elite. All over the place. They still have one of the best defensive cores on the planet, and the idea of losing to a Wild team that's been inconsistent at best is about as foreign as it gets to this franchise. Usually, in the other videos, I use the back half of explaining a team's season to point out some advanced analytics, right? That speaks to a red flag or at least a slightly yellowish one, but not only are all the 5-on-5 stats excellent for Vegas, the expected 5-on-5 stats are excellent. They aren't overperforming, they're just performing. In fact, in the playoff field, they are one of the few teams that are actually pretty close to being exactly what's expected of them based on on-ice chance creation versus, on-ice result. That's honestly pretty good. You want to talk sustainability? There you go. This Vegas team doesn't have to get hot to win the cup. They just have to do more of the same and a couple things breaking their way. Even the goaltending, which wouldn't be considered a strength, I don't think, has been really good, and sustainably so. To build on that dread for the Wild fans, the biggest, and the rest of us that don't like Vegas, the biggest variance I'm finding over the last 10 weeks is the penalty kill should be better than it is. That 31st ranked penalty kill over the last 10 weeks? Well, they've allowed almost 7 goals more than expected since February 1st. The only other team that can say this is the Ducks. Let's take it a step further. They actually rank as the 4th best penalty kill in the league in that time frame in expected goals allowed, but rank 31st in actual goals allowed per 60 on the penalty kill. This team's so good, and their only weakness is the one where you go, wait, hold on. Everything says they should be better at this. Why the puck's going in? Minnesota side, let's... If you're a Wild fan, you're sitting there like, great, dude, this is super fun for us. Thanks for making the video. No, look, no one's pretending like the last few months of the season represent this Wild team fairly. But I also haven't met too many Wild fans pointing to their hot start as a true representation of them either. It's a very realistic fan base from what I can tell. You get certain wackos in every fan base on Twitter saying all sorts of stuff. These fans know the deal here for the most part. There are very few teams that face the kind of injury issues the Wild did this season. And somehow, thank goodness that they started the season hot, because otherwise the playoffs likely would have been starting without them. And most other teams that get hit as early as they did with best players going down don't sniff the playoffs. I mean, most of them just chalk it up to, hey, that's a year from hell, off we go. They're also getting like $14 million back for the cap after all those buyouts finally end next year. The Wild are on the upswing, man. Look out for them. That's all I'm saying. I predicted them to make the playoffs to start the season. Smart guy here. Smart guy. Don't look at my bracket. The Wild were the 4th best team in the league through the first 3 months of the season. 23, 11, and 4 on January 1st, largely thanks to a stellar defense and opportunistic scoring. I know Kaprizov was going nuts, but there was not a lot behind him that was actually effectively scoring. Using that same time frame I'm using in the other videos, from February 1st to the end of the season, it was a battle of attrition. The injuries mounted and the points started slipping away. 14, 13, and 3 over their last 30. Dead last in goals scored per game. That'll be a problem. They only scored 2.43 a game. The defense was a far cry from the start of the season, ranking 15th at 3.1 allowed per game, goals allowed per game, 18th ranked power play, and 23rd ranked penalty kill. It all compounded their issues, and that was all over the last 10 weeks of the season. Had Gustafsson not had the stellar season he had, finishing the year with a .914 save percentage despite the skaters in front of him, there's no way we would be talking about them now. There's no way. And also a shout out to Fleury, too, although his season was mostly him trying to stay closer to average than outright winning the games himself, but he had a few great performances in there as well. And he was good. It's just his play took a larger hit than Gustafsson's when the injuries started mounting. The advanced numbers aren't any better. They do indicate a team that systems should have put them closer to average rather than bottom 10 in the league over the last 10 weeks, but a goals for percentage of 40% since February 1st, that's bad. That's really bad. And that's on ice, literal, at 5-on-5, how many goals are they scoring versus their opponent? Really bad. Really, really bad. Their goals for percentage, not expected, their actual goals for percentage through the last 10 weeks of the season was 40%. Their offensive creation, the expected goals, should have put them at a 40% higher clip. Not meaning that they're at 80%, I meant 40% of 40%, which is actually just a confusing way to say this. Really what I'm trying to say is that they were expected to score 17 more goals over the last 10 weeks than they actually got. Sometimes people who don't dive into like the advanced numbers, and remember, 5-on-5, 5-on-5. That sounds like not a lot of goals. It's a lot of goals. That's a lot. Even if they had met those expectations and they were right in line with it, and scored 17 more even strength goals, 5-on-5 goals through that time frame, they would still rank as one of the worst offenses in the league. Finally, the good news. Let's get to the good news. They're getting healthy at the right time, which is right now. Right now, sort of. We never know how healthy these guys are when they're coming back, but Kaprizov, Eriksson, Ek, I mean, they should be ready to go game one. I just don't see how much that matters, unfortunately, which leads us to this next section, the important factors here. We're talking top-heavy versus depth, something that Bruins fans are unfortunately well acquainted with. The Wild aren't a good offensive team outside of basically 3 players, Kaprizov, Eriksson, Ek, and Matt Boldy. All due respect to Spurgeon and to Faber, but they're not needle movers this season offensively. Those 3 are a truly daunting line for anyone to be expected to truly stop. Just behind them, there's just not enough firepower. And it's funny because I actually really like their depth, but offensively, it's tough. I like Zuccarello. I'm a big Marco Rossi guy. Ryan Hartman exists. But are they going to win a series against one of, if not the best defensive team in the league? Like, what this comes down to is how dominant can top line of Boldy, Kaprizov, Eriksson, Ek be against Eichel, Stone, Barbashev? Like, I would imagine that Vegas sits there and goes, we'll go best on best. Absolutely, we'll go best on best. Because the Eichel line can play close enough to that line and defensively are brilliant. Fine. So what if maybe that lineup, maybe we lose that matchup, but we don't lose it by much? Add in the fact that that top line will be backed by Theodore and McNabb or Hannafin and Pietrangelo for most of their shifts. I mean, the Wild's top line has to be truly dominant against 5 skaters that can defend the hell out of you. And even if they can be dominant, can they be dominant enough that it, overcomes what the next 9 forwards have to contend with? Hurdle, Carlson, Dorofeyev, Smith is strong defensively. Saad, Roy, Olofsson, also positive contributors defensively as forwards. And then the back end, where the only break you get is a third pair, and even then, it's not like the top line gets to see them that much. That third pair is going to be protected, and that third pair is fine. Another important factor, though, because this is getting too negative. Boom! Boom! They're very exciting rookie directly out of the NCAA, who will potentially be starting on the Wild's top power play for his NHL debut in Game 1 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Cool story. Excellent player. Wanted him very badly in that draft. Really exciting for the Wild to have a few young defensemen who may change the league in favor and Bouillon. But the odds of this addition from a rookie getting his first taste of NHL ice, being a series changer, is so far-fetched. I love it. I love the story. I hope he goes nuclear. It would be so cool. But come on. The back end for the Wild plays a structured and impressive defensive game. But there are a very few offensive game changers on that back end. At the end of the day, Bouillon becomes an offensive boost, I'm sure, from the back end. I don't know how he'll fare in other aspects of the game against a rather heavy Vegas team, but it's still a positive. It's just that how positive can he truly be? He's an important factor, but in like the smallest possible way. Other important factor, Adin Hill versus Gustafsson. Still feels like Hill's battle to lose, right? I love the bounce back year from Gus. I think he's been brilliant this year. His numbers are great. I would typically trust him just season versus season more than Adin Hill. I don't know. It's at best, this feels like a draw in goaltending. And Adin Hill's just really, really consistent. I don't know. I don't like this. I'm rooting my guts out. My prediction is I'm rooting my guts out for the Wild. Vegas in 6, and I think I'm being too generous. Go Knights, go! And of course, here at the end of the video, I love to give some shout outs to the fantastic high-quality inspectors who help support the channel and keep this running. I super appreciate every single one of you, from the role player tier, the top line tier, and of course the all-star tier. We are going to do our shout outs for this top line tier. Thank you so much to Sean Kreider, Michael Kammerer, Chris and Erica, Kevin Timperley, Quackin' Platypus, JM, Smoke Channels, Shaggy, Adam Ella, Albert Waldron, Negev79, Lola Cattingsworth, EKM Productions, Moonlighter TV, Big Bad Bruin, The Bugman, Jeff with a G, Tommy Braga, Roland22, GD Viperworks, Len Kreutz, Brock Nope, Han Slobo, Coach D, The Atomic Lizard, Bradley Johnson, Brett Arney, Pincent, and Nick Zatrullo. Thank you so much, each and every one of you. Your top line material. But now we got to move on to our all-star tier members, the absolute legends. We have Jacob Pratt, Jake Brower, Dampen, JG's 12, Mark S., Ann Hustis, Tim R., Lorenzo Wood, Penny Pasta, Levi Catalani, Boston Stringler, Bagel, Nightmare Eco, John Kirk, Joel, Stealthy Potato, Heil E. Coyote, Darren Woodbury, Abraxion, Wolf Warrior, Vinny, Adrian Winter, Tupton D. Tashi, Bruin Smash, D.A. Kingery, The Only Newts, A Tasty Snack, Dutes42, and Jeremy. Thank you all for all of the support and love that you are all giving. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, go Bees!